Welcome to Monk's Temple. Have you ever noticed how a room feels when you are trying not to hear a sound? The low hum of a distant appliance. A faucet, not quite shut off, marking time with a persistent drip. In your effort to silence it, to block it out, your entire world contracts around that tiny, unwanted melody. Your jaw tightens. Your shoulders find your ears. You become a fortress, not against an army, but against a single, whispering note. And in that contraction, a profound exhaustion sets in. It is not the fatigue of a long journey walked, but the deeper weariness of a long journey resisted. A journey you never agreed to take, yet find yourself battling every step. This is the landscape where anxiety builds its watchtowers and depression digs its trenches. They seem like different countries, different experiences, one a frantic storm, the other a still, gray sea. But if you listen to the ancient wisdom flowing from the heart of Buddhism, you will hear a single, simple truth whispered on the breath of 1,000 monks: they are born from the same spring. They are two children of the same parent. And that parent's name is avoidance. Today, we will not take the well-worn path through these woods. We will not follow the map of symptoms and labels first. Instead, we will sit by the root of the great, gnarled tree. We will feel the damp earth where it all begins. We will understand the connection not from the outside, looking at branches, but from the inside, feeling the sap that feeds both the restless leaf and the one that has given up and let go too soon. This is an invitation. A 3-hour space to unravel a knot you may have carried for years. To see the mechanism of your own heart with clarity, and in that seeing, to find the first, fragile thread of freedom. So, find a comfortable place. Let your body be supported. And allow your attention, like a gentle animal, to come to rest here, in the sound of this voice. Welcome. Let us begin with a story you have never heard. There was a keeper of a very old, very quiet library. His life was the hushed peace of dust motes dancing in sunbeams, the comforting weight of a book in his hand, the predictable, beautiful order of knowledge on a shelf. One afternoon, a small bird, a sparrow with a wing that would not quite fold right, fluttered in through an always open window. It was not a loud creature, but its presence was a chaos of tiny sounds, the skitter-skitter of claws on polished wood, the frantic beat of a heart no bigger than a pea against a parchment page, the soft, confused chirp that echoed in the vaulted silence. The librarian's peace shattered. This was an uninvited guest. A living, breathing interruption to his perfect order. His first instinct was not cruelty, but restoration. He needed his silence back. So, he began to barricade the door. Not the library door, but the door to his own attention. He turned up the music in his headphones. He buried his nose in the densest text he could find. He mentally constructed walls around the sections where the bird fluttered, declaring them closed for inventory. But a curious thing happened. The more perfectly he fortified his inner silence, the more immense the tiny bird became. Its skittering became a thunderous scraping. Its heartbeat became a war drum. Its mere existence in his sanctuary became a personal offense, a crisis that filled every moment. He grew anxious, vigilant, constantly scanning the shelves for a flash of brown feather. He grew depressed, for the library he loved now felt poisoned, its peace forever out of reach, all because of one small, fragile life he refused to acknowledge. You see, the Buddha taught that suffering, dukkha, arises not from pain itself, but from our relationship to pain. from our craving for things to be other than they are. The librarian's suffering was not the bird. It was his monumental, exhausting effort to create a world where the bird was not. His anxiety was the energy of that effort, the vigilant fortification. His depression was the grief for the lost library, the resignation that his paradise was now ruined. Two states, flowing from one source, the refusal to allow a simple, chirping reality. Your painful emotion. That knot of fear in your stomach, that hollow ache in your chest, that critical voice in your mind, is that sparrow. It has fluttered into the library of your being. And your mind, trained to seek order and comfort, has become the librarian. We build whole architectures of avoidance, the constant scroll, the extra hour of work, the glass of wine, the sharp word, the fantasy of a different life, the numbing silence. We barricade the door. But Buddhism offers a radical, counterintuitive pivot. It does not ask you to love the sparrow. It does not ask you to adopt it or call it beautiful. It simply asks, with the boundless compassion of a wisdom 2,600 years in the making, what if you stopped barricading the door? What if you turned the music off? Took the headphones away? Lowered the book from your face? And simply, allowed the sparrow to be? To hear its skittering not as an invasion, but as a sound. To see its frightened movement not as a crisis, but as a movement. To notice the tension in your own body as you resist, and to soften, just 1 millimeter, around that tension. This is not surrender to despair. This is the opposite. This is the courage of willingness. Willingness is not approval. It is not passivity. It is the profound, active choice to cease the civil war within your own skin. It is turning toward the whisper of pain with the curiosity of a scientist and the kindness of a friend. It is saying, ah. This, too, is here. This fear. This sadness. Let me feel its texture. Let me breathe into the space around it. When you do this, a miracle occurs. The sparrow, finally seen, finally acknowledged without threat, often, simply rests. It finds a perch. It quiets. Or it remains, but its noise is no longer the only thing you can hear. You begin to hear the library again, the rustle of pages, the sunbeam, the vast, silent intelligence that holds it all. The emotion may not vanish. But its tyranny does. The connection between anxiety, the fight, and depression, the flight from the fight, is severed at its root. Take a breath with me now. Feel the air enter. Feel it leave. Somewhere in your body, there is a sensation you have been subtly avoiding. A tightness. A heaviness. A hum of unease. For just these 3 breaths, do not try to change it. Do not try to heal it or make it leave. Imagine your awareness as a soft, open hand, resting gently around that place. No pushing. No pulling. Just letting it be exactly as it is. This is the beginning of willingness. If this space, this way of being with what is a refuge you wish to visit more often, consider subscribing to Monk's Temple. It is a simple gesture, like leaving a window open for gentle wisdom to find its way to you, whenever you need a reminder to lower the barricades. We would be honored to be a quiet part of your journey. Let us walk now to the edge of a river. Not just any river. This is the river of your lived experience. It is always flowing, carrying sensations, thoughts, feelings, memories, a ceaseless stream of the raw material of life. For a moment, stand on the bank. This is the bank of avoidance. It is familiar ground. It looks stable, secure. Here, you learn to build dams. A painful thought approaches on the current. You pile up sandbags of distraction. An uncomfortable sensation. You erect a levee of rationalization or denial. A memory that aches. You divert the entire tributary, trying to send it down another path entirely. You work tirelessly, an engineer of your own emotional landscape, trying to control the flow. And from this bank, you look across the water. You see the other side, the bank of willingness. It looks wild, overgrown, dangerous. To step into that current seems unthinkable. It means feeling everything you've worked so hard to hold back. So you stay. You build your dams higher. But the river is patient, and it is powerful. The water you block has to go somewhere. It pools. It stagnates. It becomes the swamp of rumination, that stagnant, circling anxiety that goes nowhere but drains all your light. Or, it builds pressure, so much pressure, until it seeps through in bursts of panic, or it finally breaks the dam entirely, flooding you with a helpless despair that feels like drowning. This is depression, the catastrophic failure of the avoidance system. The Buddha, sitting in mindful equipoise, taught not to live on either bank, but to understand the nature of the river itself. He taught anicca, impermanence. The river's essence is change. The feeling you are blocking is, by its very nature, already passing. Your resistance is what grants it a permanent visa. You are trying to build a solid home on a bank of sand, fighting a current that only wants to keep moving. Now, imagine you stop building. You lay down your tools. You simply sit on the bank of avoidance and watch the river. You see the log of anger float by. You see the leaf of grief. The sparkling ripple of joy. You don't jump in after the joy, trying to cling to it. You don't run from the log, trying to push it away. You just witness the flow. In that simple act of witnessing, you are no longer on the bank. You have become the spacious sky above both banks. The awareness that contains the river, the banks, the one who watches. This is the pivot. Willingness is not forcing yourself to the other side. It is the courageous relaxation that allows you to see you were never truly confined to either bank in the first place. You are the open space in which the entire drama unfolds. Let me tell you an original story, from the annals of Monk's Temple. An old gardener tended a plot of land famous for its beautiful, tranquil pond. One year, a water plant, a fast-growing vine, found its way into the pond. It was not native. It began to spread, covering the surface, threatening the lilies, choking the light. The gardener's first response was aversion. He saw it as a plague, an enemy. Every day, he waded into the pond, ripping and tearing at the vines, his hands raw, his heart full of frustration. Each day, it grew back thicker. His anxiety grew with it, a vigilant war against nature. Eventually, exhausted, he sat on the bank in defeat. His beloved pond was ruined. A deep sadness, a depression, settled over him. He stopped visiting. Weeks later, a wandering monk passed by and found the gardener in his sorrow. After hearing the tale, the monk simply asked, "What does the plant want?" The gardener, confused, said nothing. "Come," said the monk. They sat by the pond, now a green carpet. They sat for a long time, just looking. The monk said, "Do not see a problem. See a plant. It only wants sunlight and water, as all things do." He then took a single, long vine and gently guided it to the pond's edge, laying it on the bank. It does not need the whole pond. Just a path to the shore. Inspired, the gardener stopped fighting. Each day, he would gently guide a section of the vine to the bank, where it could root in the soil and no longer need to cover the water. He worked with its nature, not against it. Within a season, the pond was clear, framed by a beautiful, flowering border of the very plant he had tried to destroy. Your difficult emotion is that water plant. Avoidance is the frantic, exhausting tearing that only makes it stronger. Depressive resignation is giving up and walking away. Willingness is the monk's question, what does this want? It is the gentle, curious action of giving your anger, your fear, your sadness, a little space to root on the bank of your awareness, so it doesn't have to choke the whole pond of your mind. Pause here. Feel the flow of your breath, your own personal river. Can you sense a thought or feeling in the water? Can you, just for this moment, stop building a dam? Can you simply let it float on by, watched by the sky of your awareness? No need to guide it yet. Just practice not fighting the current. We often speak of our emotions as if they are us. I am anxious. I am depressed. This identification is the final, tightest knot. Buddhism, with its profound insight into anatta, or not self, invites us to untie this. Imagine you are the sky. Vast, open, unchanging in your essential nature of spaciousness. Now, imagine the weather. A storm of anxiety can blow through, dark clouds, lightning, driving rain. A fog of depression can settle. Thick, still, muffling all light and sound. From the ground, it feels like the storm and the fog are everything. They define the world. But if you could rise above, you would see the truth, the sky holds the weather. It is not of the weather. The storm rages within the sky. The fog sits within the sky. And the sky remains, fundamentally, untouched. Your awareness is that sky. Your feelings are the weather. Anxiety is a storm pattern. A high-pressure system of frantic energy trying to outrun a front of fear. Depression is a low-pressure system, a still, heavy air mass where the winds of motivation and joy cannot stir. They are not you. They are phenomena passing through the you that is awareness itself. When you say, I am anxious, you collapse the sky into the storm. You become a small, buffeted thing. But when you can learn to say, there is anxiety, or a storm of agitation is passing through, you reclaim your skyness. You create space. And in that space, there is a choice, to be lost in the thunder, or to rest as the openness that allows the thunder to be. This is the core teaching, framed anew. Your essence is not the content of your experience, but the conscious space in which experience unfolds. Suffering is forgetting your sky nature and believing you are made of cloud. Here is a story never told outside these walls. A young woman came to the temple, her mind a cage of starlings, a frantic, chaotic beating of fears about the future. They will not stop, she said. I am my fear. The abbot did not give her a mantra. He did not tell her to breathe. He gave her a small, smooth stone from the garden. Your task, he said, is not to quiet the birds. Your task is to feel this stone. Feel its coolness. Its weight. The absolute, undeniable reality of it in your palm. Whenever the starlings swarm, do not follow them into the sky of your thoughts. Bring your attention, firmly and gently, back to the stone. Not to push the birds away, but to remember the ground. For days, she practiced. Fear would rise, what if I fail, and her hand would close around the stone. Its solid, present reality was an anchor in the storm of what if. She was not trying to kill the birds. She was simply giving her awareness a place to rest that was not the flurry of feathers. Slowly, she noticed something. The starlings were still there. But she was no longer in the cage with them. She was the one holding the stone, watching the cage. The space between her and the fear had appeared. She was the sky, and the fear was just weather in a corner of her vastness. This is the practice of grounding. It is not avoidance. It is the opposite. It is a radical return to the present, sensory reality, the stone, the breath, the sound of the wind, to re-establish your identity as the aware sky, not the passing storm. Depression often feels like being the gray, featureless fog itself. The stone is a reminder, beneath the fog is solid earth. You are that, too. Let's practice together. Wherever you are, find something solid. The chair beneath you. The floor under your feet. Feel its support. Feel its unwavering presence. Now, notice a thought or feeling. See if you can, just for now, place it gently to one side. Not to deny it, but to say, for this moment, I am choosing to also feel this solid support. You are the space that holds both the feeling and the solid ground. You are bigger than you thought. We carry within us an ideal, a perfect, unblemished vase of how we should be. Happy. Productive. Serene. Unaffected. And when a crack appears, a fissure of insecurity, a chip of anger, a hairline fracture of grief, we see it as ruin. We think, I am broken. Our entire energy goes into hiding the crack, plastering over it, holding the pieces together so no one sees, or turning the vase so only the perfect side faces the world. The vigilance of hiding is anxiety. The crushing weight of the secret, the belief in your own fundamental flaw, is depression. Buddhist philosophy speaks of shunyata, often translated as emptiness. It does not mean nihilism. It means that all things are empty of a separate, permanent, independent self. The vase is not a solid, final vase. It is a temporary coming together of clay, water, fire, and the potter's intention. Its beauty is in its form, yes, but its truth is in its interdependence, its nature to one day return to dust. Now, consider the crack. We see it as a deviation from the ideal vase. But what if the crack is not a mistake? What if it is simply part of this vase's story? The Japanese art of kintsugi repairs broken pottery with lacquer dusted with gold. The flaw is not hidden, it is illuminated. The break becomes the most beautiful part of the object's history. The vase becomes more valuable, more unique, for having been broken and repaired. Your painful emotions are the cracks. Avoidance is the desperate attempt to pretend they aren't there, to live as the ideal, uncracked vase. It is an exhausting performance. Willingness is the art of kintsugi. It is the brave, loving act of turning toward the crack and saying, this, too, belongs. This hurt, this fear, this past wound, is part of my landscape. You do not celebrate the breaking, but you honor the truth of your experience by not denying it. You fill the crack with the gold of your own compassionate attention. When you do this, the dynamic between anxiety and depression shifts. The energy spent on hiding, anxiety, is freed. The shame of being broken, depression, begins to dissolve. You are not a flawed vase. You are a living work of art, whose history is written in delicate, golden veins across your being. I will share with you an original parable from the scrolls of Monk's Temple. A potter was renowned for vessels of such perfection they seemed spun from light itself. He guarded his secret glaze fiercely. One night, a novice, trembling with awe, accidentally knocked the master's favorite, unfired vase from its shelf. It shattered. The potter's rage was a thunderclap. He banished the novice to the kiln shed to live among the broken shards and rejects. The novice, heartbroken, spent his days among the fragments. At first, he saw only failure. But as weeks passed, he began to see beauty in the accidental shapes, the unique textures of the flawed pieces. With nothing left to lose, he began to experiment. He mixed the master's precious glaze with the dust of crushed brick and river clay, creating a rough, golden mortar. Quietly, he began to piece together the rejects. Not to make them perfect again, but to make them whole in a new way, highlighting the breaks with seams of gold. When the potter finally stormed into the shed to berate him once more, he stopped. He saw a shelf of transformed vessels. Humble bowls and cups, radiant with a beauty far deeper than flawless symmetry. They spoke of resilience, of history, of a beauty that included brokenness. The master's anger vanished, replaced by awe. He had been a prisoner of perfection. The novice, in his willingness to sit with the broken pieces, had discovered a more profound truth. Your mind, in its quest for a perfect, pain-free state, is the master potter. Your heart, if you let it, can be the novice. It can learn to sit with the shattered pieces of a difficult day, a lost hope, a personal failing. It can learn to mend them not by pretending they never broke, but by acknowledging the break with a seam of gentle awareness. The golden mortar is your willingness to feel. The resulting vessel, your life, becomes infinitely more compassionate, more authentic, and more durable. Breathe into your heart space. Imagine a crack there, an old hurt, a current worry. Instead of trying to seal it, imagine breathing a soft, golden light into it. Not to fix it, but to fill it with presence. To say, I see you. You are part of me. Feel how that acknowledgement, in itself, changes the weight of the crack. We often wage war on our inner landscape. We see a negative thought or feeling as a weed, an invader that must be pulled up by the roots, poisoned, eradicated. We attack it with positive affirmations, with forced gratitude, with disdain. I shouldn't feel this way. This inner conflict is a battlefield. The anxiety is the adrenaline of the fight, the constant scanning for enemies within. The depression is the scorched earth left behind after a long, losing war, a barren field where nothing beautiful seems able to grow anymore. The Buddha taught a path of non-violence, ahimsa, that extends to the self. What if the weed is not an enemy? What if it is simply a plant growing where you did not plant it? It has its own intelligence. A dandelion cracks concrete to reach the light. Its deep taproot brings nutrients from subsoil to the surface. It is hardy, resilient, a survivor. Your negative emotion has a similar intelligence. Anger might be a signal that a boundary has been crossed. Sadness might be the testimony of a deep capacity to love. Fear might be an ancient, hardwired protector shouting a warning. When you try to pull it out by the roots, you create inner violence and miss its message. You also disturb the soil, making it more likely to grow back, stronger. Willingness is the practice of the mindful gardener. First, you stop. You kneel down. You get close to the weed. You study it. What are you? Why are you here? What conditions allowed you to grow? This is curiosity, not condemnation. You might learn that the weed of your anxiety grows thickest in the soil of uncertainty, watered by the rain of future-tripping thoughts. You might learn the weed of your depression thrives in the shade of isolation, in soil compacted by self-criticism. Armed with this understanding, you don't wage war. You change the conditions. You introduce sunlight, moments of present moment awareness. You aerate the soil with movement, with connection. You might still choose to gently remove the weed, but now you do it with respect for its role, and you plant something else in its place, a seed of self-compassion, a bulb of gentle curiosity. Here is a new story for you. A woman inherited a garden that had run wild for years. It was a jungle of thistles and bindweed, with only a few choked flowers struggling through. Overwhelmed, she declared war. She spent weekends hacking, pulling, poisoning. She'd leave exhausted, her hands scratched, her spirit low. The weeds always returned. One spring, defeated, she simply sat on the patio and wept. She had failed. An elderly neighbor saw her. He brought her a cup of tea and said, "You are fighting the garden. Try listening to it." Skeptical but desperate, she tried. Instead of attacking, she began to walk through it daily, just observing. She saw where the morning sun hit. She saw a patch of damp, rich soil near a downspout. She noticed that the thistles were thickest where the ground was hardest. She bought a single packet of seeds, sunflowers, tall and simple. She didn't clear a whole bed. She just broke up one small, hard patch of earth near the sunny fence, planted a few seeds, and watered them. Those sunflowers grew. Their broad leaves began to shade out the thistles beneath them. Encouraged, she planted a clump of mint in the damp spot by the downspout. It spread, fragrant and strong, crowding out other weeds. She didn't conquer the garden. She collaborated with it. She learned its language. The garden transformed, not into a manicured trophy, but into a vibrant, living, resilient space. Her war was over. Your inner landscape is that garden. Avoidance is the exhausting, futile war of eradication. Depression is the scorched earth of defeat. Willingness is the neighbor's advice, listen to it. Be the curious observer. Change the conditions, one small, compassionate action at a time. Plant a single seed of a nourishing thought. I am doing my best. Water it with a breath. Protect it with the shade of non-judgment. The weeds may not vanish, but they will no longer rule the kingdom. Place a hand on your belly, the soil of your emotions. Can you feel the landscape there? Without trying to change anything, just send a message of curiosity. What is growing here today? Listen. Not to solve, but to understand. This listening is the first, gentle till of the soil. Depression can feel like a dense, white fog. It muffles sound, blurs vision, erases horizons. You cannot see the path ahead. You cannot even see your own feet. The world shrinks to the few gray inches in front of your face. In this fog, anxiety becomes the frantic stumbling, the fear of falling, of hitting something unseen, of being utterly lost. You panic, waving your arms, trying to push the fog away, which only makes you more disoriented and tired. The two feed each other. The fog creates the conditions for panic, and the panic ensures you never settle enough for the fog to possibly lift. The wisdom of the Buddha is like the knowledge of an ancient lighthouse keeper. He does not tell you to fight the fog. He does not promise to blow it away with a mighty breath. He simply advises you to light a lantern. The lantern is your anchor to the present moment. It is small. It does not illuminate the whole world. It does not show you the path to the distant city. It simply lights the ground at your feet. This breath. This sensation of your body in the chair. The sound of the wind, even if muffled. The feeling of the air on your skin. When you are lost in the fog of depressive numbness or the cyclone of anxious thought, you are either far in the past or far in the feared future. The lantern of present moment awareness brings you back to the only place where life is actually happening, right here, right now. It is not a dramatic cure. It is a simple, steadfast practice. When lost, return to the lantern. This practice severs the connection. The fog may remain, depressive mood, but the frantic stumbling, anxiety, ceases. You stop. You feel your feet on the earth. You breathe. You are still in the fog, but you are no longer lost. You are simply present with the experience of being in fog. And a profound peace can be found there, the peace of ceasing the struggle. From that peace, sometimes, the fog itself begins to thin, because its fuel, your resistance and identification with it, has been cut off. Let me tell you a tale from the mountain behind Monk's Temple. A seasoned tracker was leading a group through a high pass when a sudden, thick fog descended. The travelers, city folk, grew instantly afraid. They began arguing about directions, remembering stories of people lost for days, their voices rising in panic. The tracker said nothing. He simply sat down on a rock, opened his pack, and lit a small, brass oil lamp. He placed it on the ground before him. "We cannot see the path," one traveler cried. "Exactly," said the tracker calmly. "So walking is foolish. The path will return when the fog lifts. For now, we have this lamp. We have the rock we sit on. We have the water in our skins. We are not lost. We are waiting." He encouraged them to feel the solid rock, to drink slowly, to focus on the warm, steady flame of the lamp. One by one, their panic subsided. They huddled around the small circle of light. They told stories. They shared food. The fog persisted for hours, but inside the circle of lamplight, a strange, quiet camaraderie blossomed. When the fog finally lifted at dusk, revealing a breathtaking vista, they realized they had not just survived the wait. They had discovered a depth of connection and calm they would have missed entirely on a clear, anxious hike. Your mind, when depressed and anxious, is the group of panicked travelers in the fog. Your practice is the tracker. You must learn to sit down on the rock of your immediate sensory experience and light the lantern of your attention. I am here. I am breathing. This is what I can see and feel right now. This small circle of awareness is your sanctuary. It breaks the cycle of panic about the future, anxiety, and hopelessness about the lasting fog, depression. It grounds you in the palpable reality of the present, where you are always, fundamentally, safe. Look around you right now. Find one small detail you can see, the weave of fabric, a shadow on the wall, a speck of dust in a sunbeam. That is your lantern. Now find one small sound you can hear, the hum of electricity, a distant bird, your own breath. That is your rock. For this minute, let your world be just this small, well-lit circle. The fog of past and future has no power here. There is a powerful, visceral metaphor born from the heart of Buddhist teaching. Imagine you are handed a burning coal. A red-hot ember of anger, of betrayal, of shame. Your instinctive, biological response is to clutch it tightly. To possess it. To say, this is mine. This hurt, this injustice, belongs to me. In your furious, righteous grip, the coal sears your flesh. The pain is unbearable. And so, you cry out in rage at the person who gave you the coal. You plot revenge. You nurture the story of your burning hand. This is anxiety, the intense, burning focus on the object of your pain, the story of how you were wronged. But what if you never let go? The burning continues. The wound deepens, becomes infected. The pain becomes a constant, dull, debilitating throb. You can no longer use your hand. You become defined by your injury. You withdraw from life to nurse your wound. This is depression, the chronic, heavy aftermath of holding on too long. The Buddha's insight is breathtakingly simple: the problem is not the coal. The problem is the clenching. The coal is the painful event, the unkind word, the failure. It has its own heat, its own reality. But the vast majority of your suffering is generated by your own hand, closing around it and refusing to open. Willingness is the unclenching. It is the terrifying, liberating act of opening your palm and letting the coal fall. It does not mean the coal was not hot. It does not mean you approve of being handed a burning ember. It means you choose to stop letting it burn you in this present moment. Unclenching is forgiveness, not of the other, but of yourself. It is releasing the story of my hurt. It is the understanding that holding on is a choice, and it is a choice that harms only you. When you unclench, the immediate, searing pain of anxiety stops. The long-term, debilitating infection of depression can finally begin to heal. The scar may remain, a memory, but it is no longer an active wound dictating your life. Here is an original story to illuminate this. Two farmers had a dispute over a single, ancient apple tree that stood on the border of their land. Each claimed it. Their argument grew bitter. One night, in a fit of rage, Farmer A chopped the tree down, right at the trunk. The next morning, Farmer B saw the felled giant and was consumed by a cold, silent fury. He didn't confront his neighbor. Instead, he dug a deep pit along the border and pushed the massive trunk into it, so it lay like a buried secret between them. But he didn't stop there. Every day, he would go to the pit and stare at the dead tree. He'd remember its blossoms, its shade, its fruit. He'd see that the man who destroyed it. He neglected his own fields to tend this grudge. His heart became a barren field. He was depressed. Farmer A, after his initial fury subsided, felt a pang of regret. He saw his neighbor wasting away, shackled to the grave of the tree. One morning, he went to the pit with a shovel. Farmer B watched, hate in his eyes, expecting a new provocation. But Farmer A began not to dig up the tree, but to dig it out completely. It was back-breaking work. After days, he hauled the rotting trunk to his own yard. He sawed it into sections. He spent a season drying the wood. The following year, he appeared at Farmer B's door. He didn't speak. He simply handed him a beautifully carved bowl, made from the heartwood of the old apple tree. Then he left. Farmer B held the bowl. He felt its smoothness, its weight. He saw the tree's grain, its history, transformed. In that moment, the pit in his heart filled. He had been clinging to the buried corpse of the tree, his coal. Farmer A, in his own clumsy way, had unclenched first. He had taken the source of pain and, through acceptance and effort, transformed it into an offering. The dispute didn't matter anymore. The tree was gone. But in the bowl, it was also, finally, at peace. What coal are you clenching in the fist of your heart? An old resentment? A recent humiliation? A story of, why me? Can you feel the burn? The practice of willingness is to slowly, gently, begin to relax your fingers. Not to deny the heat, but to choose to stop adding your own grip to the fire. The moment you relax, even a little, relief floods in. Make a tight fist with your hand. Squeeze it. Feel the tension in your forearm, your shoulder. This is holding on. Now, slowly, deliberately, open your hand. Let your fingers go soft. Feel the release, the space, the cool air on your palm. This simple, physical act is a prayer. A practice. A rehearsal for the heart. The mind, in its anxious and depressive states, often becomes a librarian of old, painful letters. It spends its days in the archives, pulling out brittle pages inscribed with past failures, rejections, and losses. Remember this, it whispers, handing you the letter of the time you were embarrassed. And this? The letter of a love that ended. You read each one, feeling the old shame, the old grief, as if it were happening now. Anxiety is the frantic searching for more letters, the fear of what other evidence of your unworthiness might be filed away. Depression is the heavy certainty that the entire library is full of nothing but these letters, that this is the total sum of your story. Buddhist mindfulness, sati, is the practice of remembering what is actually true right now. It is gently taking the old letter from the librarian's hand, acknowledging it. Ah, yes, that happened. And then placing it back on the shelf. It is not burning the library. It is knowing you are not obliged to reread every page every day. You are the one who visits the library. You are not the library itself. Furthermore, you have the power to write new letters. Letters of a small kindness you did today. A moment of beauty you noticed. A challenge you faced, regardless of the outcome. Willingness involves turning toward the present moment and consciously inscribing these new pages. It is saying to the depressive librarian, "Thank you for your concern, but today I am interested in the volume titled, This Very Breath." This reframe disconnects the circuit. Anxiety's fuel, the rumination on past threats and future possibilities based on the past, is cut off. Depression's foundation, the belief that the past defines and predicts everything, is undermined. You reclaim your authorship. A story now, from a forgotten corner of the temple's scriptorium. A historian was hired to write the history of a village. He was given unfettered access to the town archive, a dusty room filled with ledgers of court disputes, records of droughts and plagues, and minutes from bitter town hall meetings. For months, he immersed himself in these documents. His manuscript grew dark. It spoke only of conflict, hardship, and strife. He presented it to the village elders. They read it in sad silence. "This is not wrong," the eldest said. "But it is not our story. It is the story of our wounds." Confused, the historian wandered the village. He saw children laughing by a stream. He saw an old woman teaching a young girl how to weave. He smelled bread baking. He heard songs sung in the evening. He had read nothing of this. He returned to the archive and, in a neglected trunk, found a different kind of record. A gardener's diary of blossoms, a book of recipes passed down with stains and notes, a bundle of love letters that had never been sent, filled with poetry. He had been so focused on the official record of suffering, he had missed the living, breathing, unrecorded history of resilience, love, and daily joy. Your mind is that historian, and the archive is your memory. Anxiety and depression keep you reading only the ledgers of disaster. Willingness is the courage to walk out of the archive and into the living village of your present moment. To taste the bread. To hear the song. To notice the kindness in a stranger's eyes. And to begin collecting those moments, writing them into your own, truer history. Recall one simple, good thing from this week. Not a grand achievement. A taste of food. A feeling of warmth. A moment of quiet. Hold that memory in your mind like a fresh page. Feel its texture. This, too, belongs in your library. It is just as real, just as valid, as any other record. Imagine a great mountain. Ancient, immovable, rooted deep in the earth. Now, imagine a storm. It rages around the mountain. Wind howls, rain lashes, lightning splits the sky. The mountain does not tremble. It does not try to stop the storm. It does not become the storm. It allows the storm to expend its fury on its slopes. The streams may run high, the trees may sway, but the essence of the mountain, its solid, silent presence, remains unchanged. You are the mountain. Your thoughts and feelings are the weather. Anxiety is a violent, swirling storm. Depression can be a slow, freezing ice storm that glazes everything in a heavy, silent coat. When you identify with the storm, I am this chaos, I am this freezing dread, you suffer immensely. You feel battered, frozen, at the mercy of elements you cannot control. The practice born from the Buddha's stillness is to find the mountain within. It is not a practice of becoming hard or numb. It is a practice of discovering your own innate stability, your own deep-rooted presence that exists beneath and before the passing weather of emotion. You cultivate this by returning, again and again, to the bedrock of your body, your breath, the simple fact of being alive. I am here. This is the mountain's mantra. When you rest as the mountain, the connection between the storm, anxiety, and the damage, depression, is broken. The storm may still rage, but you are no longer the flailing tree. You are the ground holding the tree. This shift in perspective is everything. It is the difference between being drowned by a wave and knowing you are the ocean floor, over which waves rise and fall. Consider this parable, whispered from mountain hermitages. A young monk was sent to meditate in a cave high on a storm-prone peak. His teacher said, "Your task is to find what does not move." The first great storm terrified him. The wind screamed in the cave mouth like a banshee. The thunder shook the very rock. He trembled, convinced he would be swept away. He failed utterly to find stillness. After many storms and many failures, exhausted, he gave up trying to be still. In the heart of a new tempest, he simply sank his awareness down, past his trembling limbs, past his racing heart, deep into the point where his body met the stone of the cave floor. He felt the cold, solid, endless rock beneath him. He felt how it connected to the mountain, and the mountain to the earth, all the way down to the planet's core. He was, in that moment, not a small body in a cave, but the mountain itself. The wind shrieked, and it was just wind. The thunder boomed, and it was just sound. A profound, unshakable peace arose. He had found what does not move. It was not an absence of storm. It was a presence so vast the storm occurred within it. Your anxious thoughts are that wind. Your depressive heaviness is that pressing, cold air. The practice is not to stop the weather, but to find your mountain. Feel your sit bones on the chair, your connection to the ground. Feel the steady drum of your heartbeat, a rhythm more ancient than fear. You are that. When you know yourself as the mountain, the weather becomes interesting, dramatic, but ultimately harmless to your core being. Sit like a mountain. Feel your weight being fully supported by the earth. Imagine roots growing from your base, deep into the ground. Feel your head held high like a peak. Now, let a thought or feeling arise. A gust of wind, a cloud. Notice it. And notice that you, the mountain, are still here, vast and unmoved. Practice being the space for the weather, not the weather itself. You may have heard a tale of two wolves fighting within a person. One is anger, fear, envy. The other is joy, peace, love. The one that wins is the one you feed. It is a good story. But from the vantage of Monk's Temple, we see a deeper layer. What if you are not the fighter choosing which wolf to feed? What if you are the land upon which they fight? The soil, the sky, the stream from which they both drink. The wolves are natural forces within the ecosystem of your being. The negative wolf is not evil. It is a protector, a scout for danger, fiercely loyal to your survival. The positive wolf is the builder, the nurturer, the one who seeks connection and growth. The problem of anxiety and depression arises when you forget you are the land and believe you are one of the wolves in a fight to the death. Anxiety is feeding the protective wolf around the clock, starving the nurturer until the landscape becomes a barren, hypervigilant outpost. Depression is when the protective wolf, exhausted from constant battle, collapses, and the nurturer is too weak to revive the land. A silent, wintered waste remains. The Buddha's path of wisdom invites you to remember your identity as the land. Your job is not to fight, but to provide balanced nourishment. To allow the protector wolf to rest by the stream sometimes, knowing the land itself is secure. To encourage the nurturer wolf to plant seeds, even in soil that feels fallow. Willingness is the land accepting both wolves as part of its wholeness. It is giving the anxious protector a gentle pat, saying, "I hear you. Thank you for your vigilance. You can rest now." It is giving the depressed nurturer a drop of water, a single seed of a kind thought, and the sunlight of your attention. When you are the land, you end the civil war. The wolves can coexist. They can even work together, the protector's energy giving strength to the nurturer's projects, the nurturer's joy giving the protector reasons beyond mere survival to be alert. The connection between frantic feeding, anxiety, and barren exhaustion, depression, is healed at the source. Let me offer you a new story, Under This Moon. A woman felt her life was a battlefield. Every decision was a skirmish between her fearful self and her hopeful self. She was perpetually exhausted. She went to a sage living in a thriving, wild garden. She told him of the war within. He listened, then pointed to a hawk circling high above and a rabbit nibbling clover below. "Which one is the garden?" he asked. "Neither," she replied. "The garden is everything. The sky, the earth, the plants." "Exactly," he said. "The hawk hunts. The rabbit eats. The flower blooms. The worm turns the soil. There is conflict, yes. There is also cooperation. It is all the garden being the garden. You are not the hawk or the rabbit. You are the garden. Can you let the creatures within you simply live their nature, while you tend to the overall health of the soil?" She returned home and began to practice. When fear arose, the hawk, she didn't fight it. She acknowledged its presence and turned her attention to watering the soil, a deep breath, a stretch. When hope felt weak, the rabbit hiding, she didn't force it. She simply ensured the conditions were safe, a moment of quiet, a gentle task. She stopped taking sides in the war and started tending the land. The battles diminished. A complex, vibrant, resilient inner ecosystem began to flourish. Close your eyes. Sense the inner landscape of your body and mind. Can you feel the presence of a protective energy? A nurturing energy? Don't feed or starve either. Simply acknowledge them both as inhabitants of your vast inner land. Send a message of welcome to both. There is room for you here. Feel how this changes the atmosphere from a battlefield to a biodome. Anxiety often feels like a shout in a canyon. You have a fearful thought, "What if I get sick?" And you shout it internally. The mind, like a canyon wall, sends it back, "Sick, sick, sick." Then it adds its own embellishments, "hospital, bills, alone." The echo grows, distorting, amplifying, until the original whisper is a deafening chorus. You are shouting at your own echo, mistaking it for reality. Depression can be the aftermath, when you grow so weary of the shouting that you sit down in the canyon floor, hands over your ears, believing the echoes are the only true sound. The world becomes that dark, narrow gorge of repetitive, negative thought. Mindfulness, as taught from the time of the Buddha, is the practice of walking out of the canyon of repetitive thought and into the open plain of direct experience. It is learning to distinguish the initial thought whisper from the manufactured echo. Willingness is the key. It is the willingness to stop shouting, to be silent, to listen to the original sound, the raw sensation, the pure emotion, before the mind's amplification begins. When you do this, you see the mechanism. You see that anxiety is you, shouting, then being terrified of the echo you created. Depression is you, defeated by the acoustics of your own mental space. The connection is broken the moment you choose silence. In the silence, you hear other sounds, the wind on the plain, the call of a distant bird, the sensations of the present moment that are not thoughts, but life itself. An original tale for your contemplation. A man built his house in a beautiful, deep canyon. He loved its soaring walls. But he had a habit of talking to himself, often voicing his worries. One day, after a hard week, he sighed loudly, "I am so tired of all this." The canyon dutifully echoed back, "Tired of all this, this." It sounded ominous, judgmental. Startled, he defensively shouted, "I'm doing my best." The canyon roared back, "My best. Best. Est." It sounded sarcastic, mocking. This began a daily ritual. He'd shout his fears, and the canyon would magnify them into torment. He grew anxious, then deeply depressed, feeling persecuted by the very walls of his home. A traveler passing through found him huddled in his doorway. Hearing the man shout and then cringe at the echo, the traveler understood. He didn't offer advice. He simply sat down, very still, and listened. After a long silence, he said softly, almost to himself, "This place is so peaceful." The canyon whispered back gently. Peaceful, easeful, full, the man, who had only heard his own agitated voice reflected, was stunned by the gentle sound. The traveler looked at him. "The canyon has no voice of its own, my friend. It only has yours. What you send out, is what you hear." The man's practice became one of mindful speech, even internal speech. He began to whisper seeds of kindness into his canyon. "It's okay." The echo softened. "This moment is enough." The walls agreed. He didn't ignore his fears, but he stopped shouting them. He'd name them quietly, without drama, and the echo would be a brief, factual whisper, not a haunting. His canyon transformed from a chamber of torment to a cathedral of gentle resonance. Your mind is that canyon. Your thoughts are your shouts. Practice sending out gentle, factual, present moment statements. Breathing in. Feeling the chair. Hearing the silence. Let the echo be a soft reminder, not an amplification of fear. Break the cycle of shout and terrify yourself that links anxiety to depression. For the next minute, practice internal silence. Don't follow thoughts. Don't shout them down. Just listen to the silence between them, or the actual sounds around you. Be the traveler, listening to the canyon, not the man shouting into it. In the night of depression, the world can feel like a dark, endless sea. You are adrift, no land in sight, the stars obscured by clouds. In this darkness, anxiety becomes the frantic splashing, the fear of drowning, of unseen predators, of a storm that might come. You are exhausted, treading water in a black expanse, with no sense of direction. The teachings of Buddhism offer a lighthouse. Not a rescue ship that takes you out of the sea, but a fixed point of light on a distant shore. The lighthouse does not calm the waves. It does not drain the ocean. It simply provides a reference point. There is land. There is stability. It is there. Your lighthouse is your practice. Your anchor points, the breath, a mantra, a prayer, a visualization of a safe place, the feeling of gratitude for one small thing. When lost in the dark sea of depressive fog and anxious thrashing, you do not need to see the whole shore. You only need to find that single, steady beam of light and orient yourself toward it. Swim one stroke in its direction. Then another. Willingness, here, is the willingness to stop thrashing and look for the light. It is the humility to admit you are lost and need a reference point beyond your own swirling thoughts. The beam of, just breathe, or, this too shall pass, or, I am here now, may seem small against the vast dark, but it is real. It is constant. It is yours. When you orient toward the lighthouse, the thrashing, anxiety, slows. You have a direction. The hopelessness of the dark sea, depression. Lessens, because you have a point of hope, however distant. The act of swimming toward it, however slowly, is an affirmation of life and agency. It reconnects you to your own power. A final, lengthy story from the coastal lore of Monk's Temple. A fisherman was caught in a sudden, moonless squall far from shore. His lantern was smashed. His compass spun. The waves were mountains. At first, he fought with sheer panic, trying to row against the swell, screaming into the wind. This was pure anxiety, burning his last reserves. Soon, exhausted, he collapsed in the bottom of the boat, certain he would die. A profound, cold despair settled over him. This was depression. As he lay there, waiting for the end, a strange memory surfaced. His grandfather, also a fisherman, had once said, "When all is dark and lost, lad, lie flat in the boat. Feel how it moves. It knows the water better than you do. And listen. Past the wind, listen for the sea itself." With nothing left to lose, he did. He stopped fighting. He stretched out, his hands on the hull, and felt the boat ride the massive waves, not fighting, but yielding. He stopped listening to the shrieking wind and tuned his ear deeper. And there, beneath the storm's fury, he heard it, the deep, rhythmic, resonant groan of the buoy bell at the mouth of his home harbor. A sound he'd heard every day of his life, so familiar it was background noise. Now, it was the only sound that mattered. Clang. Pause, clang. It was his lighthouse. He didn't have to see it. He just had to hear it. He sat up, took the oars, and with each clang, he pulled once, aligning himself with that sound. He didn't try to get there quickly. He just used the bell to remember where home was. The storm raged for hours. He rowed slowly, steadily, toward the sound. When dawn broke, gray and exhausted, He was a mile from the harbor mouth, the buoy clearly in sight. He had survived not by conquering the storm, but by finding one constant truth within it and moving toward it, one pull at a time. Your dark sea is your low mood, your lack of motivation, your fear. Your frantic thrashing is your anxious rumination. Your lighthouse is your most basic, reliable practice. The feel of the breath. The repetition of a kind word. The sensation of your feet on the floor. When lost, stop fighting. Lie flat in the boat of your awareness. Feel the movement. Listen past the storm of thought for your buoy bell, the steady, reliable truth of the present moment. Then, take one gentle stroke toward it. Find your lighthouse now. What is one, single, unwavering point you can return to? Your breath. The word peace. The image of a calm lake. Focus on it. Let it be your buoy bell in this moment. All you have to do is orient toward it. That is enough. We want healing to be linear. A straight path from pain to peace. We want to pull the weed and have it gone forever. But the heart, like nature, operates in cycles, in spirals, in unfurling. A fern does not blossom. It unfolds from a tight fiddlehead, one frond at a time, sometimes catching, sometimes pausing. Anxiety is the impatience with this process. I should be over this by now. It is the frantic pulling on the frond, trying to force it open, which only damages it. Depression is the belief that because it is still tightly curled, it will never open. I am stuck like this forever. Both stem from a rejection of the natural, nonlinear timeline of emotional healing. The Buddha observed the nature of all conditioned things. They arise, they persist, they pass away. But they do so in their own time, according to causes and conditions. A fern unfurls with the right amount of moisture, shadow, and time. Your heart unfurls from its protective curl in the presence of safety, patience, and compassionate attention. The very conditions willingness creates. Willingness is the gardener who provides the conditions but does not tug on the plant. It is the patience to water the soil of self-compassion and trust the innate intelligence of growth. It understands that you may feel open one day and tightly closed the next. This is not failure. This is the process. When you stop fighting the rhythm of your own unfurling, the anxiety of not being there yet and the depression of never getting there lose their grip. You become a gentle witness to your own becoming. A story from the temple's greenhouse. A novice was given charge of a rare, temperamental fern. Its instructions said simply, indirect light. Consistent moisture. Do not touch the fiddleheads. The novice was eager to see it flourish. He checked it hourly. He misted it constantly. One morning, seeing a fiddlehead that seemed on the verge of opening, he gently, with the very tip of his finger, tried to coax a single frond loose. It snapped off in his hand. He was horrified. He became anxious, over-attentive, fussing over the plant, which only seemed to make it more stunted. Then, despairing, he neglected it, convinced he had ruined it forever. The head gardener noticed the fern's decline and the novice's distress. He said nothing. He simply moved the fern to a shelf in a quieter corner of the greenhouse, where the light was dappled and the air was still. He watered it deeply once a week without fail. He did not look at it with expectation, only with care. He forbade the novice from visiting it for a month. "You are not tending the fern," he said. "You are tending your idea of the fern. Leave it to remember it is a fern." After a month, the novice was allowed to see it. The plant was transformed. Not into a giant, but into itself. Tight, glossy fiddleheads had risen, and from them, several fronds had gracefully unfurled in perfect, intricate spirals. They had done so on their own time, in their own way, when the conditions were right and the anxious energy of expectation was removed. Your emotional healing is that fern. Your job is not to force the unfurling. Your job is to create the consistent, gentle, non-intrusive conditions of willingness. Allowing feelings, offering kindness, providing the indirect light of awareness, and then to trust the intelligence of life within you to do the rest. This trust ends the war between the impatient gardener and the apparently stagnant plant, between anxiety and depression. Bring to mind an area where you feel stuck or slow to heal. Instead of focusing on the stuckness, focus on creating one gentle condition. Offer it the consistent moisture of one kind thought today. Give it the indirect light of your non-judgmental attention for just 5 minutes. Then let it be. You are the gardener, not the manufacturer. Trust the fern. We have traveled through many landscapes together, libraries and rivers, gardens and mountains, canyons and dark seas. We have seen how anxiety and depression, those two seemingly separate states, are in fact born from the same source, the resistance to what is. The avoidance of our present moment experience, whether it be a fluttering sparrow of fear or a burning coal of anger. The Buddha's timeless wisdom, flowing through Monk's temple, offers not a complicated solution, but a profound reorientation. The path is not toward a different feeling, but toward a different relationship with all feeling. It is the cultivation of willingness. Willingness is not weakness. It is the ultimate courage. It is the open hand. The hand that has been clenched for so long, in a fist of control, in a grip of possession, in a desperate prayer for things to be different, is tired. It aches. Willingness is the moment you decide to relax that hand. To let the fingers uncurl. To feel the air, perhaps for the first time in years, on your open palm. In that openness, you are not defeated. You are free. Free from the exhausting work of avoidance. Free to receive the present moment, in all its textured, difficult, beautiful reality. The sparrow may still chirp, but it is no longer a crisis. The coal may fall away, leaving only the memory of heat. The river flows, and you are the sky that holds it. This 3-hour journey is an invitation to begin practicing the open hand. When anxiety whispers its frantic warnings, see if you can open your inner hand just a little. When depression lays its heavy blanket, see if you can turn your palm upward, to feel the weight, without collapsing under it. You are not your weather. You are not your cracks. You are not the weed or the storm or the echo. You are the vast, aware, loving space that contains all of it. You are the library, the sky, the mountain, the land, the lighthouse, the gardener. You are home. Thank you for spending this time in Monk's temple. May the peace of the open hand find its way into the quiet moments of your days. May you walk gently with yourself, with willingness as your compass. Go in peace.